During the month of June, I finished 10 books and there are 5 more that I decided to not finish, so let's talk about them. Goodreads came out with their list of the most popular books of 2026 so far, and of course I wanted to be a guinea pig and try some of them, because just because a book is popular doesn't mean it's good. So I picked 4 books that I had seen going around everywhere, and I enjoyed most of them actually. The first one, I've seen it everywhere, and it is Yesteryear. So in this one you're following a trad wife influencer who is sent back in time in the 1800s. It's kind of a satire. I think she gets what she wanted, right? And I was curious what the author was going to do with that topic. So you start in present time, she's a famous influencer, and then there are 2 timelines. Her being young, kind of going to university to become eventually that influencer, but also a timeline of her in the 1800s. I appreciated that the author did not portray her as being dumb. I think that this big idea that, again, right-wing women are dumb, they're victims of this situation, but in this one she is portrayed unlikable, yes, but she knows exactly what she's doing. She is getting things that she wants in whatever way that she can. Overall, I found this book extremely entertaining. I need other people in my life. Like, this copy is leaving me today because I need other people to actually read it. I want to hear their opinions. I was dying to not have anyone to talk about this while I was reading it. So again, this would be a fantastic book club book. Everyone's gonna have a very strong opinion, especially about the ending. I feel like in the past I've mentioned in general, like not necessarily about this book, that I don't care what the author chooses. Like, I don't care if the solution is like ghost, aliens, whatever. I just want the author to pick an ending and commit to it. Like, don't make it vague just because you didn't know what to do. And I can definitely appreciate that in this case she does decide on an ending and commits to it. I can see why some people were disappointed, but personally I was okay with it. Overall, I just found this book, like I said, extremely entertaining. I understand the hype. The only thing is I kind of wish she had went a little deeper in some of the topics that I thought she was going to go towards at the beginning. So I gave it 3.75. I'm running it to 4-star due to the entertainment factor. So this is good. It's gonna keep being everywhere because, again, no one can read this and not have a strong opinion. Let's talk about the best one that I read that week, and it is My Friends by Fredrik Backman. I feel like in general I have mixed feelings about him as an author. I feel like some of his books really work for me, and some of them just leave me feeling a bit emotionally manipulated. Like, obviously it's the goal, right? He aims to make you feel these emotions, but sometimes there's just something that just doesn't click with me. But this time, yeah, I definitely enjoyed this one. I am not even sure if I'm rounding it up to 5 or 4, but either way, this is a fantastic book that left me devastated. In this one, you're following this young woman who just aged out of the foster system. She goes to see this painting by this famous artist that she really admires, and there she meets someone and kind of hears the backstory of that painting and how during these 2 summers he had these important friends to him. They were all dealing with difficult situations at home, and you kind of go back and forth. The story is definitely heavy in grief, even though it kind of ends on a hopeful note. I felt like the writing style reminded me so much of Jandy Nelson. If you haven't read her books, she tends to write YA novels that are centered around very artistic narrators, and it is reflected in the kind of writing that she uses, and it's usually about grief. So I felt like it was so similar. Like, if you had hidden his name, I would have thought it was by her. So if you like one, you like the other. But yes, this is going to be like a 4.5. I don't know if I want to round it up or down. Either way, this was just a really fantastic book. It looks like you're like the perfect summer read. It's like bright yellow too, but it's going to leave you very sad. So just keep that in mind. But yes, this was fantastic. I also finished My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. The premise is really interesting. You have this woman, she just moved with her husband into this small town close to water, and she's on a run, doing some jogging, thinking about her first exposition as a painter in that small town that night. And when she gets home, someone opens the door and she claims to be her, and her husband is like, no, you're not my wife, she is. So things are weird. It's kind of how things start. The thing is, I realized that this is my 3rd book by the author, and every time she uses something in the book that you have to suspend your disbelief so much. I don't know if it's considered a spoiler, so I can tell you in the comment section if you want to hear it. But yes, you definitely have to just turn off your brain to enjoy her books. I did like the setting, again, being close to the water, smaller town. The investigation of what's going on was interesting. But yes, there were some elements that were a little difficult to not focus on. I will say though that this is like the best book ever in terms of format. Like, if I be the queen of the universe for a day, this would be the only format acceptable for books ever. It's just the floppiest book ever. Anyway, so I gave it 3, which is kind of generous, but If she's an author for you, you'll know, but definitely have to, again, suspend your disbelief a lot. Another book that I've read that is very popular for book clubs is The Correspondent. This one is written all in letter formats between the narrator, who is an older woman, which I've been trying to read more books with older female characters, so that's a good one. She is definitely particular. She has decided over her life that she just finds it easier for her to talk to people that way just by writing letters, and she talks about certain books that she's reading, and you're seeing her developing these relationships with sometimes very random people and making decisions about her life, kind of hearing about some of the reasons that she is the way that she is. So I thought I was going to enjoy it more than I did. I ended up giving it 3.5. Like, I understand why it's popular, but I felt like I had heard so many rave reviews, and again, it is one of the most popular books so far this year. So I expected that it was going to be a 5-star read for me, but I overall enjoyed it. I felt like the ending kind of compensated for the slower parts for me throughout the novel. But if you're someone that enjoys slower pace, more character-driven stories, I think you might want to check that out. I think the book that I'm the most proud that I finally finished this month has to be Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. I was forced to finish this month because I wanted to read the highest rated book on my shelf, and it turned out to be this one at 4.60 average rating, which is kind of crazy, but it's the third book in this series, which honestly, this is a really good example of his series being impossible to summarize. Like, I feel like this would be a really good candidate of like, try to review this book with like 2 or 3 sentences and it's just going to sound absolutely ridiculous. You're following humanity fighting against these other creatures. The magic system is based on putting stones outside when there are storms. It's just impossible to summarize without including a bunch of spoilers that you're discovering at the same time as the characters. So I overall did enjoy it, but I think that the fact that it was in my pile of shame, I had read the first 400 pages 2 years ago, probably affected my enjoyment. So I'm giving it 4 star. I think this is a fantastic idea. I like this world building, the magic system, the characters, but it's just so damn long. Like 1,200 pages, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I will most likely continue the series since I have the next 2 books on my shelf, but I need a break after this. But I'm happy I did it. Very proud. On the other end, I did try the 5 lowest rated books on my shelf, and I'm getting rid of them. The 2 that I have stronger opinions on are this one, which is Girls Against God. This has to be the coolest cover I own. It looked like a southern gothic paranormal kind of book, and it's nothing like that. And even the summary in the beginning made me think it was going to be interesting. It's saying how it's about like a coven of witches, curses, demons, time traveling. Where? I didn't finish it, to be fair, but I got about halfway through and I just could not do it anymore. You follow this young woman who is in a small village, a small town in Norway, and she's saying that it's very Christian, very religious, which from what I know, Norway isn't that religious, but it just talks about nothing. It's just about her rage. It's like almost a collection of essays, and she talks about music and just a lot of anger, and it was not anything like expected, because again, that cover sounded like such an interesting book. Looks stunning. Caught my interest instantly, but yes, I could not finish it. The other one, actually quickly, just showing ones that are getting decluttered. But the other one I read about halfway through it is California. This one is a post-apocalyptic book. It's like a slow decay of society. You're following a character who is living in the forest with her partner. My issue is that instantly I knew, like, which is the proof to me that I need to listen to my gut feeling whenever I feel it, because page 2, you have the main female character being like, oh, I think I'm pregnant, which happens so often in post-apocalyptic book, and I understand that it would happen, but it just really pisses me off to follow a character like this where like you had a choice, like it didn't happen to you, you're having sex, like you know how babies are made, why would you be pregnant while living in the middle of forest, barely surviving? Are you insane? Like, this is just so selfish. Anyway, I did, you know, try to give it a fair shot, and I read further, like 170 pages, but I just didn't care with where the story was going. So yeah, I should have listened to my gut feeling and instantly just not do that. I did read a couple books that had been on my shelf for a while, including Homegoing, which I think if I had to choose, this would be my #1 best book that I read this month. This had been on my shelf for almost 10 years, which is absolutely ridiculous. But I know for a fact that I enjoyed it more now than I would have 10 years ago. So there's that. In this one, the book format is kind of complicated, but once you understand, it helps. I had seen the chart it. And then I forgot for a while, and I shouldn't have. So you're following this family through like 8 generations. 2 branches of these 2 sisters. The story starts in Africa, and then one of the branches go through the slave trade, and the other one stays in Africa. And you're kind of seeing the consequences of those situations and the generational trauma, but also their format was really different and interesting because each chapter you're following a different person. So you go to the next generation, and then you go flip-flop between the 2 branches, which is why at first I thought it was kind of complicated. And at the same time, I'm someone that gets overwhelmed when there are too many characters. And I felt like this was going to be a problem because after each chapter, you're switching to someone else. But every time the author managed to make me emotionally invested with them again and again and again. And it was just so interesting to see how the next generation would be affected by things that happened in the past. So this was fantastic, 5-star. I highly recommend this. A lot of you told me that she has another book, so I did put it on my waiting list at the library. I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy it as much, but yes, this was fantastic. I'm so glad I finally read it. I did also read 7 Days in June. I don't read a ton of contemporary romance, but this one really worked for me. I enjoyed characters that are a bit older, like she's in her 30s. She does have a daughter. They have a great relationship. She is chronically ill. She gets these migraine, and I thought it was great representation. The book starts pretty intense. She's in bed, busy, and she almost chokes, but it sets the tone because she does write these kind of spicy novels, and she's getting to a point where she wants to actually write about the women in her family, which I feel like every book from that vlog had similar themes. But in this case, I thought that her family sounded really interesting. But there's this romance with this man that she met whenever they were very young, 16, 17, and then they haven't seen each other in like 15 years. And he is also an author, very well known, and then maybe they're ready now for a relationship. So they had a rough beginning, and then, you know, they meet again. So I did really enjoy it. There is like a 3rd act drama moment, which is probably the only reason this wasn't a 5-star. I understand why the author put it there, but at the same time, I'm at the point where I just want people to communicate. Like, we all have a cell phone, like, please. Either way, 4-star, really liked it. If you're looking for a summer read, I would recommend this one. And then the other book from that same vlog, again, families, especially women, The Fortunes of Jaded Women. So in this family, the women have been cursed to only have daughters and to always be unhappy. So I was really curious how this was going to go. Unfortunately, I ended up struggling with, first off, there's what, like 14, 16 women in this family. That was a lot of characters for me, but also I was struggling to accept that they just never really improve in their communication. They're always fighting. They are Vietnamese, and I know that some of the things that happened were more cultural differences, but the tone is meant to be humorous at times, like they're fighting and throwing oranges at each other. But one of them is being told, she's been, you know, told her fortune that that year she needs to mend her relationships because there will be a funeral, a wedding, and the birth of the first grandson in many generations. So an interesting premise, but I wasn't as emotionally invested as I wanted to, but it was still a good read, so 3-star. I did also read Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher. I really like her books because, once again, most of the time she writes older female characters, which I think she was also in her 30s. And in this case, it's a retelling of Snow White, which at first I was not seeing it because it took a while to really be more obvious, although the main female character is following this young girl called Snow. She's been sick, and she is sent there to kind of figure out what is happening. Is she being poisoned? What's going on? She's constantly vomiting, and it becomes a lot more complicated than that. I feel like I can't tell you too much without spoiling it, but the world becomes kind of crazy, and there were twists I didn't see coming. And in general, I feel like she just writes this good balance of like fantasy, horror elements that just keep you really invested in the story, and the premises tend to be unique, even though it is about, you know, Snow White retelling. It's not really that similar. There is a talking cat, and I'm seeing it here that they're saying more. I feel like I tend to be overly careful with spoilers, but they're mentioning that she finds a secret world hidden inside of Magic Mirror. So I'm not going to say more than that. It's there, so it can't be that big of a spoiler. So yeah, kind of a mystery, finding out what's poisoning her, a lot of fantasy elements. The talking cat was fun, and I enjoyed the main character, so would recommend this one. 4-star. I knew I was forgetting something. A Trade of Blood. This is the third book in this series of murder mystery in this fantasy world. I am enjoying it tremendously. This is a 5-star. I think this is the best one that I've read in that series so far. Like I said, they're murder mystery. In this case, you're following these two really important family, and they've had this feud for years and years and years when there's this situation where a son of one family murdered the daughter of the other family. Anna and Din are sent to investigate what happened, and it seems to be a lot more complicated than what you would believe at first. If they don't figure it out, basically there's going to be an outright war between these two families, so it's really important. It's a lot more discovery of the characters, the magic system, the world a lot more, but obviously it's the third book, so I'm not going to tell you more, but I really like this one. Plus, I always laugh a couple of times because of Anna. She's just such an interesting character. But yes, I highly recommend this series if you enjoy murder mystery in a fantasy world. This is technically not the last book, but I believe that depending on how well it does, it will determine how many more books the author gets signed up for. So hopefully a lot more, because if he comes out with 3 more, I'll read 3 more because this was so good. And yeah, as far as right now, I am currently reading The Hot Zone, which is a nonfiction about the Ebola virus, which unfortunately is very relevant, even though this one was written like 27 years ago. 37 years. Yeah, 37, 89. Crazy. So this was kind of after the first wave, and it's honestly horrifying. It's giving you details of what happens to the people, and I didn't know a lot about the disease, and yeah. And everything else I'm currently reading is going to be for my next vlog. I'm having a lot of fun. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll put more on the screen that I recommend you check out, including my mid-year update if you want to see how my reading goal is going. And I also did an unhaul video where I got rid of $50, so it was way overdue. I'll see you there. Bye.